was just doing a punction here and doing a punction there and doing a punction here.
Who very spontaneously said, the doctor killed him with an injection.
It was in favor of this family who was suffering, and also, in my opinion, for the patient, but not because the patient asked me.
It is accomplished, said Christ on the cross. It is accomplished, said Dutch Health Minister Els Borst when signing the Euthanasia Act. And so the Netherlands became the first European country to legalise this process, even though euthanasia had been carried out in the Netherlands illegally for decades whilst the government turned a blind eye.
I did my first euthanasia in 1969. 1969, so that's more than 30 years ago. And I talked about that from the beginning. So therefore, they say I'm a little bit the godfather of euthanasia.
What is euthanasia? Euthanasia is actually an act by a person who terminates the life of another person on the specific request of that person.
Two procedures. One is the physician-assisted suicide. That you give the patient a drink with drugs in it, medicines in it, and the patient drinks it and falls asleep in 5 to 10 minutes, and then you wait till the patient is dead. The other procedure is that you give an injection to the patient, and that's a procedure where it's going very fast.
More and more doctors realized that given an injection, dying the patient within 5 minutes, it was all over. He could leave there for a moment with the family and then go on with his normal work.
I was there because I wanted to find out what I could do for this person and this family, and it was the first time that I saw the patient. So I've been sitting down there and I was watching that doctor, and he was just doing a punction here and doing a punction there and doing a punction here and doing a punction there, and it took about 3/4 of an hour. And in the meantime, the distress was going up and up and up and up, and everyone's in complete distress. And I thought, no. Now I'm sitting here and I'm watching the whole scene, and I think there is no other way out than euthanasia, because they all have decided that, and I don't get any time to do anything about it, to help. So then I've put one cannula in a little vein in the foot, and then he had the possibility to continue with his euthanasia.
Najważniejszą przyczyną
The most
takiej
important reason
sytuacji,
for
tej
requesting
prośby o
euthanasia
eutanazję
is
jest
fear.
lęk. My mniej więcej
We estimate that of
oceniamy,
the
że
people
około
who ask for
80 do
euthanasia, from
90%
80 to 90% are
ludzi,
scared of
którzy
something.
proszą o eutanazję, to są ludzie,
Scared of
którzy czegoś
suffering because
boją.
of pain,
Boją się tego,
scared of
żeby
suffocating,
cierpieć z powodu bólu.
sometimes
Boją
scared
się
of unbelievable
wyrzucić, boją
things,
się
things that
czasem
could never
niestworzenie
happen in the
rzeczy,
course
które
of
się
their
nie zdarzają
illness.
w ogóle w przebiegu ich choroby.
Prawie, że nie ma.
There are nearly no cases where pain relief could not be achieved. Palliative medicine has developed greatly and become very effective. In fact, statistics show that those who submit to euthanasia do not do so because of
Wszystkie
pain.
statystyki pokazują, że ci, którzy poddają się eutanazji, robią to nie z powodu bólu.
Suffering brings also loss of human dignity. And this is mentioned in 80% of all the cases.
En heb dus heel veel mensen zien overlijden.
I have worked with old people for about 20 years, and I have seen many people dying. The number of people asking for euthanasia has increased in recent years. My experience here in this house is that people who came here brought statements with them many times about wanting a euthanasia. But because they received good care, the number of requests for a euthanasia decreased.
Instead of killing the suffering, you kill the patients. That shortens fantastically the process of dying, and those people will suffer only a short time. But I think that you should kill the suffering instead of the patient. And when you see that people who becomes desperate and who say, doctor, do something because I'm suffering too much, you know, that you should do something, anything, but not kill them.
Wij hadden een mevrouw hier en die had...
We had a lady here with breast cancer that continued to spread. At one point, her home doctor came and said, "She has a statement requesting a euthanasia. Can you come with me to see her and talk about it?" We did. We sat there together, but the lady didn't even mention the subject of the statement. She said, "I receive good care here and everything is all right."
Familie die had een keur.
He decided with his children, you know, it's time for me to go. He was in his bed, you know, in the hospital. Let's have euthanasia. Well, will we schedule that? Or say the children said, let's do it on a Tuesday, on Wednesday, then we have time for the burial and the friends coming for your funeral and things like that. And he said, okay. When the moment came, the doctor asked him before giving the injection, yeah, doctor, if I can live a bit longer, it would be better. Or say the doctor, why did you agree? You have signed all files and things. Yes, but I wanted to please my children.
Chory miał poddać się eutanazji.
The family came over from Canada to be here, but he thought about it and said, "I don't want it. Not today, not ever."
Ale on się rozmyślił. I pada nie chce.
I just don't want it. But pressure was applied. After all, people had come over from Canada,
Ludzie przyjechali z Kanady.
and they won't come a second
Oni
time.
drugi raz już nie będą mogli przyjechać.
Many old people feel like they have a duty to die, and I think this is one of the most tragic results of our policies here. They feel like they have a duty to die for the sake of their children, the people around them, so that they're not a burden. It's not nice to look at somebody who's suffering or to visit them. They feel burdened, oh, well, you know, I just need to get myself out of the way. That's tragic.
Ik was in een parochie, er was een huisarts, hij was heel vriendelijk.
There was a very kind doctor in one of the parishes.
Hij was zeer hulpvaardig.
Whenever anyone was ill, he would call me saying,
Altijd weer wanneer
"Father, such and such a person is very ill, and it would be good if you could come, Father, to perform the sacrament of anointing of the sick."
Het sacrament van het oliesel zou toedienen. En daar ging ik naartoe en ik deed dat.
I would go to the particular person, and very often the doctor would also be present. which was rather strange. He came at one point, exchanged a few words with us, and then asked, "Shall I give you an injection so that you will sleep better?" "Yes," answered the man. The phone rang on Sunday morning. The man had died. I went there, and I happened to walk in together with the man's 11-year-old grandson, who very spontaneously said, "The doctor killed him with an injection."
De dokter heeft opa doodgespoten.
After some time, my housekeeper commented, "Father, have you not noticed that when the doctor rings about the sacrament, the patient dies the following day?" "Yes."
Ja.
I remember a patient with lung cancer who was in his last days had very difficult breathing. It was only like and to sit there as a family one day, one night, another day, another night, and nothing to do, nothing you can do, it's very upsetting for the family. And if in these cases sometimes I have stopped the life, and I have to agree that was in favor of this family who was suffering, and also in my opinion for the patient, but not because the patient asked me.
There are fanatics who view a doctor's calling above all else, as being about making their fellow man's journey to the next world as gentle as possible. There was a doctor from Rotterdam who admitted as much. He often put his view into practice, unaware of the diagnosis or what the patient was suffering from, only because the patient was semi-conscious and mumbling something unintelligibly. But he was semi-conscious because the doctor had forgotten about the Valium that he himself had prescribed. That particular euthanasia did not happen because the patient was taken off Valium and started to talk normally.
There are many old people who are afraid of going into hospital because they're scared that if they lose their bearings in relation to time and space, the doctors will be able to carry out a euthanasia, even though they had not given their permission.
Yes, I would be afraid to go into a hospital or to seek treatment from a doctor if I wasn't certain that I would not be subjected to euthanasia.
He had a problem with his gums. And so the doctor, the house doctor at the old people's home, sent him to the hospital to have a biopsy done, a little puncture to check whether it was cancer or not. And in January, I think the second week of January, the results came back that from the hospital that he had non-Hodgkin's, starting phase of non-Hodgkin's lymph cancer. So the prognosis for this disease was, I asked my sister, who is a medical doctor, and she said probably about 3 years at his age. He was 80 years old.
That's the so-called terminal sedation. That means that a patient where they cannot stop the pain or where they cannot stop the suffering, they will give an overdoses of sleeping pills, of tranquilizing pills, so that the patient goes into a coma and doesn't awake. He will be unconscious for the rest of his life, for let's say 2-3 days. And they stop giving water, they stop giving feeding him, and so he will die within 2-3 days.
The doctor immediately started a therapy, if you can call it that, but it was treated like a therapy of morphine overdose, and in the last phase of withholding food. 1 week later, my grandfather was dead. The doctor, when the family came to complain to the doctor, he first said, "Yeah, but he was sick. You know, don't you realize he was sick? I was just sort of helping him." And when the family was responding very angrily, the doctor said, "Yes, but he did request." And the family asked, "How so?" And the request which was used was the phrase, "Help me toch, please help me."
What we have seen in the last report of the last year, that is, we have about 4,500 cases of active euthanasia in the Netherlands. We have already more than 15,000 cases, so that's 3 times, of terminal sedation in the Netherlands.
Op een gegeven moment.
There came a moment when I began to miss Mrs. Jardul, and so I asked Mr. Jardul where she was. He replied, "My wife is ill." One day, the family doctor prescribed a double dose of morphine, which a community nurse then administered to her. The nurse came in the evening and gave Mrs. Jardul an injection, during which Mr. Jardul, unaware of what was happening, was needed to hold his wife down.
En ze heeft die spuit toegediend, maar meneer Hazoel moest helpen.
On the following morning, it turned out that Mrs. Jardul had died.
Zondagsmorgens was mevrouw Hazoel overleden.
Several days later, he told me, "I helped them with it." He was very emotional. "I helped them with this task. I will always hold it against myself, for as long as I live."
En dat zal ik me mijn leven lang altijd verwijten.
There are still main three groups of patients who are not at this moment fully have full possibilities to make use of the law. These are the psychiatric patients, the many chronic ill people, and the demented people. All those 3 groups can suffer unbearably, but they are not really accepted as being inside the group where euthanasia is performed. So we think that is for us important to promote and to see that that is more possible.
Everybody agrees that these newborn babies have the right to have euthanasia, but it is simply not well organized in the Netherlands.
We often encounter hostile reactions from neighbours. My husband's boss said that what we had done wasn't normal. Look at the animal world. If a cat bears a kitten that is ill, it immediately kills it. To let such a child live is against nature. Or another situation. During the walk, we met our acquaintance. We started talking, and he said, "There is, after all, euthanasia. The life of this child has no meaning."
The whole of the thing is to convince the parents to say, you know, that life is useless, you will have only bother with it, it is really a cross upon your life. And if you agree, we will not give any more treatment to that child and he will starve to death.
That desire to eliminate useless individuals from society plays a role, above all, as far as the euthanasia of infants is concerned. These children are regarded as failures. undeveloped,
nieukształtowane,
simply inhuman
to po prostu
beings whose
nieludzkie
life has no
istoty,
value.
tak? Których życie nie przedstawia żadnej wartości.
People
Mówi
say,
się, że
who could be against immediate
od razu po
euthanasia for such
urodzeniu,
births?
Któż by się sprzeciwił
In
eutanazji?
effect, not mercy,
w takim
which they
przypadku?
claim,
Więc
not a willingness to
nie
provide for that
litość,
child's
na
future,
którą się
a future
powinno,
filled with
nie
suffering,
współczucie, nie chęć zabezpieczenia tego dziecka przed przyszłością,
but disgust
która
and
będzie
fear
przyszłością
of that
pełną
disfigured
cierpień,
human being pervades,
tylko wstręt, strach przed tym zniekształconym
and averseness to admitting him
człowiekiem,
to the community of the living.
chęć niedopuszczenia go do wspólnoty żywych.
Was ist der Sinn des Lebens von Tikva?
I'm very often asked about the sense of my daughter's life and of those like her.
Wie Tikva?
I can only offer an explanation based on the example of my own experience. I think that Tikva is for us a great enrichment, for me as a father, for Ranta as the mother, and for our children. I think that had Tikva not come into this world, our life would make a lot less sense.
Ich glaube, dass wenn in unser Leben Tikva nicht gekommen wäre, dass unser Leben ein großes Stück Sinn verloren hätte.
We saw the heartbeat on this monitor, we saw it slowing down, and we thought, well, now it is going to happen. And then she started breathing again. This little girl, 14 months old, struggled for life.
It's very, very difficult to see, to witness the dying of a child. And I was asked for euthanasia in our newborn department. We have done it twice. We have told it to the prosecutor. In that time, that's about 15 years ago, it didn't give any problems.
After 1.5 days, the pediatrician came in. He was a very kind man, a very soft man, and he was very understanding, and he asked in a very gentle way, so this is a heavy process for you and for the child. And he asked this to my sister. Don't you think it is time to end this process of dying? And my sister kept very calm. And very calmly and gently she told him that this was not hers or from her husband to decide. It's someone else to decide when she had to go. And he just left.
There was some man, he was age 50, this was not that old, and he was dying from cancer. The son said to his father, Daddy, if I had what you have, I would kill myself. And this man looked at his son and said, listen, son, if you were in the bed I am, and with the illness I have, and I know that I will not live long anymore. He was not yet terminal, but he was, you would speak like that. Because remember that remember forever that every day that when I wake up in the morning in my hospital, but then I look at through the window, you know, at the outside, I'm glad to be here with you.
And you see it in a society where all the people who need care are taken out of society, are pushed away in institutions, mental homes, homes for old people, homes for all different categories, so that we don't need to see them on the street, so that we don't need to feel their presence or worry about them. It robs us of the knowledge how to love. It makes us hard. It sucks the marrow out of our lives.
My father was at home when he suddenly felt unwell. He had trouble breathing. An ambulance came, and though it didn't look particularly serious, they decided to take him to hospital. After carrying him down the stairs into the ambulance, his condition became very serious, such that they had to reanimate him. Father talked about overbearing feelings of anxiety. The past disturbed him. He was exhausted by strange pictures that appeared before him. Life is such that we carry all sorts of disharmonies, mutual injuries inside ourselves, even from the distant past. He had bed sores all over his body. They were so huge that the biggest bed sore on his back, I saw it myself as I was there when the dressing was changed, meant that a part of his buttock was missing. It was not a protuberance, but a gouged hollow. The sisters wept openly as they changed the dressing, whilst he lay uttering not a single word of complaint. Doctors could not fathom why he didn't show his great suffering. It was then that I somehow realized that God's love was coming to him in great waves. A love that he had never felt before, something that up to that moment had been beyond his experience. Suddenly all the fears and frustrations he had disappeared. Dying is a time when God shows us his love perfectly. If we do not give God's love the opportunity to fill us completely, then we also forfeit the opportunity to bring perfect order to our life. For whatever needs to be changed inside us thanks to his love, to be changed, to be made complete, and so to be healed.
Żeby to, co się ma w nas przemienić pod wpływem Jego miłości, żeby się przemieniło.